Hi, Assalamu alaikum. In this video, we will understand about the basically what will be happen when you will intake the glucose. So carbohydrate. So basically, whenever you will intake the only glucose in the form of refined carbohydrate and complex carbohydrate. So we will understand about all things about that and what is the impact on your body physiology. We will understand about that. So please make sure to watch the whole video for understanding the whole mechanism and what is the side effect and what is the problem arise due to the too much glucose intake, even basically normally during the snacking, so during the meal time or in the form of fruit, candy, etc. So let's understand about that. So number one thing is that the glucose is different type. So basically carbohydrate is different type, like the glucose, simple glucose, maltose, and the sucrose in the form of sugarcane, and fructose in the form of the fruit, and on the other hand the lactose, which that is in the form of the milk. That is all type of the disaccharide or monosaccharide. So the polysaccharide mean the starch which that is digest after when you will intake. So digestion will occur in your digestive system, while the simple sugar will absorb and quickly absorb into the blood circulatory system from your digestive system. So remember that things. So in this way, the important thing you should need to understand, whenever you will intake the glucose, so what will be happen and what is the chronically intake of the sugar will lead to cause addiction, and that addiction which that is difficult to quit that addiction. So let's understand about that. When you will intake the glucose, so glucose will enter into the digestive system. So it can be a refined sugar in the form of candy, and in the form of, we are not focusing on the complex carbohydrate because that is complex carbohydrate even healthy as compared to the refined sugar, which that is simple in the form of candy, in the form of sucrose, sugarcane, and in the form of fructose, in the form, which that are present in the banana, apple, and other sweet fruit, which that is genetically modified. So GMO fruit, which that is known as the genetically modified organism, which that is basically a mutation in the gene for production more glucose and for consuming, so enhance the taste of the fruit for the business purpose. So that is, but it can cause problem. So when you will intake that kind of glucose enter into your stomach, and that whenever it will enter into your stomach you will feel very relaxed. Why? Even it will not absorb in your blood circulatory system. So remember that things. So the your stomach contain enteroendocrine cell. What that means? Endocrine cell which that produce certain hormone into the blood circulatory system before the absorption of the glucose, and will target to the pancreas. So remember, the one of the important hormone is known as the GIP. GIP mean is the glucagon-like insulinotropic hormone, which that insulinotropic peptide, which that release into the blood circulatory system and target to the beta cell of the pancreas to release the insulin. So remember, already you have glucose in your blood circulatory system and circulating, but normally it will where the need of glucose, that glucose will use. For example, your brain requires the glucose, so automatically little amount of the glucose will enter into your brain through little amount of insulin production. So that is okay. So when the GIP will increase due to the intake of the glucose, when glucose, too much glucose in the form of candy or in the form of fluid, juice, etc., or beverages, which that basically intact the wall of the stomach will lead to activate the enteroendocrine cell. The enteroendocrine cell produce the enteroendocrine hormone, GIP, which that target to the beta cell of pancreas, and which that will lead to allow the release of the insulin. When release of the insulin will occur in this way, the blood which that contain normal amount of insulin and the buffering state which that will lead to spike the insulin. When insulin will spike, so in this way, the already the level of the glucose present in your blood will decline. Why? Because the already sugar present in your blood will drain into the cell due to the activation of the insulin, and insulin bind the insulin receptor in the certain tissue like adipose tissue, muscle, brain, and other type of tissue like the stem cell. And in this way the glucose will enter in your muscle cells, and a lot more stem cell will need to proliferate and grow, as well as if go into the liver to produce cholesterol or produce the triacylglycerol. So in this way glucose when intake lead to basically hypoglycemia will occur when you will intake the glucose. Why? Because the insulin trigger even faster than the absorption of the glucose due to the GIP. So in this way your blood glucose level will be drop. When your blood glucose level will drop, so in this way the already which that is present the glucose in your stomach go into the duodenum. If the disaccharide will digest due to the enzyme sucrase, and that sucrase as well as for example maltase and sucrase, and maltase on the other hand digest through bacteria, so lactoferrin containing gene which that digest the lactose into the simple sugar. So when that will absorb into your blood circulatory system, when these glucose will absorb in your blood circulatory system from hypoglycemia already occurred due to the GIP, will again rise the glucose level is known as the hyperglycemia again will occur in your blood, will knock the beta cell of the pancreas to release again the insulin. In this way the beta cell will exhaust and they feel basically tired. The cell will lead to cause many problems like insulin not produce more, so that can be a problem. But anyhow, this basically lead to cause the beta cell inflammation. But uptake intake basically uptake of the insulin from beta cell into the blood circulatory system due to more glucose absorbed from your digestive system into the blood, and when go basically again rise that insulin will target again the receptor of your cell, and when rise again this receptor will overuse. The overuse of the receptor will lead to cause insulin receptor binding resistance. Yes, insulin receptor binding resistance will occur. That insulin binding resistance will lead to cause type 2 diabetes mellitus. This is the normal aspect for understanding. So later on that insulin resistance will lead to cause type 2 diabetes mellitus. So it is okay for understand better. So the glucose will lead to cause inflammation. How it is possible? Let's understand about the beta cell. So the beta cell basically our stimulation of the beta cell for production of insulin will lead to exhaust the cell and inflammation will occur, and due to the our stimulation and the damage of the receptor for the GIP receptor, and the GIP will not bind easily again, will lead to not produce the insulin more, and in this way the problem will arise. But anyhow, the glucose level will be rise. So the glucose level will be rise, will drain that glucose again for creating the homeostasis in your blood for normal glucose level. So in this way, where will the glucose dispose? So that is important thing. So the glucose will deposit into your muscle, into your liver, and into your adipose tissue. So in this way, the adipose tissue will grow more because the lipogenesis, because the insulin trigger the anabolism. So the insulin trigger anabolism, so the adipogenesis will occur. While on the other hand, the glycogenesis will also trigger in the liver and muscle. But how it is impossible to synthesis more glycogen rather than the synthesis of synthesis of fat in the form of triacylglycerol. Let's understand about that. Whenever you will work hard, too much work in the gym, you require glucose for the glycogenesis. But when you will not exercise and not break your muscle, not consume the glycogen, so how it is possible to again recovery of the glycogen? So that is important things. When you will work hard like running, intense workout, you need some glucose for the normal health. So remember that things, it is not bad, but you can add the basically protein containing glucose, simple glucose will stimulate spike the insulin. When spike the insulin, so in this way the amino acid after the digestion of protein, insulin already working due to the GIP. So in this way, the amino acid will enter into your muscle, into your liver, and will lead to proteogenesis, actin and myosin synthesis, sarcomere synthesis. Anyhow, this is a different topic. But it is the beneficial if you will add the little amount of the refined sugar with the protein for enhancing the metabolism, enhancing the anabolism. So in this way, the insulin will lead to anabolic. So in this way, the rise further on, the insulin resistance will create because the GIP again and again stimulate, and in this way, the insulin resistance will occur due to the again and again insulin bind with the receptor. So the insulin binding receptor capability, insulin binding with the receptor capability will be decreased, and the potential and the sensitivity will be decreased, and due to the over stimulation of the receptor. So in this way the fasting will trigger again the sensitivity. Remember that things, this is the side note for understanding. So in this way basically when you will intake more and more glucose will lead to cause type 2 diabetes mellitus. In this way, the further on, the muscle will not get the response through insulin, but the adipose tissue still responding, and lipogenesis will occur. That is why that insulin insensitivity and insulin resistance will lead to pre-diabetic person, which that get the obesity, increase the fat but decrease the muscle mass. So that is why. And in this way the basically the refined sugar is the white poisonous in the form of for normal person, in the form of basically sugar which that is in the form of candy, and a lot of more through a business purpose to enhance their sugary material for getting the taste and selling the products. And that is why they are doing, but they don't know about the problem which that is arising due to the sugar intake too much throughout the worldwide population is mostly consuming the sugar because our environment is just like more sugar but the less protein, and that is why. So remember that things. But the carbohydrate it stimulate more GIP, and the less GIP stimulation through protein, while the buffering of the GIP production but produce not, I am not saying that completely blind the GIP due to the fat intake only, but that is ketogenic diet will buffer the GIP, and in this way GIP will decrease, not too much produce. And on the other hand, the when fat will enter into your blood circulatory system in the form of low density lipoprotein, even should we go into the liver to produce cholesterol, and that cholesterol is important for the synthesis of the testosterone and estrogen, so overall health will be improved. On the other hand, the ketogenic diet also stimulates the growth hormone, because the insulin is not spiking too much. So the alternate form of the anabolic hormone is known as the growth hormone or somatostatin. So in this way, so basically is the you know about that, if the liver also absorb the fructose 60 gram or 70 gram fructose in each meal, if you will go with the fasting, the fructose will convert into the glycogen through a glycogen synthase enzyme, and in this way the basically insulin also trigger the glycogen synthase enzyme. But the important thing you should need to understand, further on, the insulin resistance will create the problem. Insulin resistance will again absorb when the glucose, so the insulin will not get response, and unresponsive insulin with the receptor due to the insulin resistance will lead to rush the glucose in your blood, and that is why the glucose level will be rise, is known as the hyperglycemia. That glucose will rise, will not basically excrete easily, and in this way the glucose when excretes so will lead to cause kidney failure or glomerular filtration rupturing, because basically it is requires too much water for excretion, and on the other hand it requires too much water. So in this way, the requirement of the water more for excretion of the glucose, because the glucose is not entering into the into the tissue. So in this way, the glucose will excrete, and in this way, the kidney can be failed due to the basically diuresis, and in this way the more urine production, so the polyuria will lead to polydipsia, and polydipsia also lead to polyphagia, because again and again eating behavior due to the less consumption of the glucose, rather than it use into your tissue, it will excrete. So in this way basically this will lead to cause many problem. But anyhow, this glucose when rise in your blood circulatory system will lead to get the response, the rising of the glucose, which that will enter into the endothelial cell of the blood vessel, and endothelial cell of the blood vessel will intake more glucose, because the endothelial receptor not endothelial cell not required required glucose without insulin receptor. So endothelial cell will not bind with the insulin receptor, so the insulin receptor not required. So the endothelial cell when rise the glucose will enter into the endothelial cell, otherwise the endothelial cell normally basically work, so normal glucose level, normal glucose uptake. So the endothelial cell absorb too much glucose, will produce too much energy, and in this way the oxidative stress will lead to produce more reactive oxygen species and more ATP. That reactive oxygen species basically damage the endothelial cell. When damage the endothelial cell, will lead to deposit the low density lipoprotein, the LDL, and when LDL will deposit to progress the arteriosclerosis due to the macrophage residing on the tunica intima, tunica media. So the tunica media basically will grow the plaque formation is in the form of the coronary artery disease like arteriosclerosis. So that is the problem which that can occur due to the intake of the more sugar. So in this video we have discussed about the too much sugar consumption and what is the side effect of the too much glucose intake. And basically glucose intake is a basically it can lead to cause poisonous effect, and you will even get the type 2 diabetes mellitus, even the insulin insensitivity. So in this way the problem will arise. I hope you make sense about that. If you like my video, please make sure to subscribe, like and share. I am also making the handwritten tutorial about the biomedical science, and I will upload more, so you can watch that if you like to understand the as a biomedical student or other expert. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video. For this time, bye.